Audio's on.
Yep, I'm ready.
Okay, 1 second. Okay, we're recording.
Welcome, everyone, to the Township Council Workshop, Monday, August 10th, 2020. This meeting is now called to order. Mayor, would you lead us in a salute to the flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mrs. Kraus, can you read the statement of public notice?
Take notice that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in accordance with NJSA 10:4-10 as follows. The notice of the meeting was prominently posted on the bulletin board at the municipal building located at 225 Main Street, Little Falls, New Jersey on January 9, 2020. A copy of the notice was faxed to the North Jersey Herald and News and the Record on the same date. Additionally, a copy of the notice was filed in the office of the Township Clerk on said date. This meeting is being conducted under the circumstances surrounding the COVID-19 health situation. No public will be allowed to attend the meeting in person. A YouTube link to view this meeting can be accessed on the Township website at www.lfnj.com. Electronic provisions have been established for the public to participate during the public comment portion of the meeting.
Mrs. Kraus, at this time, can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Coordinator. Present. Councilmember Kawadi.
Present.
Councilmember Seaver.
Present.
Councilmember Vantieri.
Present.
Council President Scoba.
Present. Have a motion to open the meeting for public matters.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Quaddi, second.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Vantieri. All those in favor of opening the meeting for public matters, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed to the motion signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Mrs. Kraus?
Anyone wishing to address the Township Council may do so by sending an email to ckraus@lfnj.com. The email must provide your name and address for the record. At this time, there will be a 10-minute recess, which will allow the public to send comments and questions via email. At the end of the recess, the meeting will reconvene and all proper emails will be read into the record. The Council President will determine if a response is needed, and if so, shall direct said response. Once the process is complete, we'll return to the regular order of business.
We'll recess and we'll return at 7:12. Thank you. Good?
Yep, we're good. That was it.
We're back into regular meeting. Mrs. Kraus, has there been any emails that have been forwarded to this governing body?
Yes, we received 2 emails.
Mayor, are you in receipt of those emails?
I am, Council President.
Would you like to read them and address them, please?
Sure thing. The first email that was received was from, bear with me, of course, I did have them a second ago, was from the Little Falls ABC. And that email read, Little Falls ABC would like to thank everyone for attending our wonderful concert/market series. The series truly are a great happening in our town. This is a crucial reminder everyone must wear a mask at these series. Thank you. Hope to see you Thursday. It also says LFABC would like to thank the DPW for doing, caring, and always being there for everyone in our town. They did an outstanding job in keeping our town safe and removing all the debris, trees, etc. Thank you so much. It also goes on to say there is present and future great, wonderful redevelopment projects going on and going to happen, and we thank our mayor and council for making all of this happen. It reads, we are hoping that the town can place billboard or some type stating this site is part of the up-and-coming LF redevelopment program. And at the Rainbow site, if 2 billboards could be placed, 1 for being a part of the redevelopment program, and 2, the developer places a billboard showing the actual design that will be built on the site. We feel that everyone in our town should know and see what is happening in our town. Thank you, Little Falls ABC. So, Council President, I'm happy to address that if you would like.
Right, Mayor, I think Ms. Shapiro is addressing those big billboards as those that I sometimes see in Edgewater on those big projects, I think. So if you want to address that and those comments.
Sure. My only comment to that would be typically billboards such as that are billboards or displays or visual graphics of the site or what is coming are things that are typically installed by the developers that are developing the site or the project themselves. It is not the town's responsibility or obligation in any way to promote this developer or this development over everything or anything else that's happening in town. If the developer wanted to do that pursuant to our sign ordinance and what is permitted there and what is not, he is certainly welcome to do that, but, you know, that would certainly be up to the developer to do. I am certainly not opposed to it per se. I believe it's a beautiful, positive project for this town that's going to generate in excess of over $1 million more in revenues to the municipality on an annual basis. I think it's not only good for the aesthetics of the town on Main Street, particularly in that section, but good for the finances of the town in the future. And again, I think there's all positives that are going to come out of that, as well as the decrease of impervious surface on that site, which is now essentially concrete or asphalt from corner to corner. So a lot of good things, I think, are coming out of that project. But as excited and anxious as I am to see the project move along and beautify that area, it's not my role, this council's role, or this municipality's role to promote or do more than, you know, speak highly of this project. It is going to be up to the developer to actually, I guess, display pictures and to promote the project in that sense. So again, while I'm not opposed to it, that's something that I can certainly touch base with the developer on, but it would ultimately be their decision as to whether or not they place these billboard-type signs there.
Thank you, Mayor. Does the council have any input or comments regarding Ms. Shapiro's questions and comments? Mayor, the next email.
Yes, the next email that was received from Luis Fernandez on Harrison Street. No address was provided beyond that. However, you know, I would like to read the question, Council
ahead,
President,
Mayor.
with your permission. It starts by indicating, Mr. Mayor, a couple of questions tonight. The rest I am saving for when I can ask them in front of the microphone. First question is, when are you going to open City Hall, even if it is at 25 or 50% capacity? Rumors are that you do not want to face any criticism or face any questions that might jeopardize your reelection. Second part to that is Resolution C, PCO 13 states wiring for existing field lighting, an extra $83,000. Wasn't that lighting done recently? So, Council President, if I may, with the first one.
Absolutely, yes.
The first one, when are you going to open City Hall? So, City Hall is open on a daily basis, Monday through Friday, regular operating hours for the public to enter, to have any sort of business that they need to have attended to completed. Our departments are open, we are operational. You are required to buzz into the building, you are required to wear a face covering, you are required to answer some screening questions, such as, have you been in contact with anyone who's a known positive case lately? Do you work in a healthcare facility where there's positive COVID patients? So, you know, do you have any symptoms? A couple of other questions that are required. So Town Hall is open. We are limiting the number of individuals that are permitted in each department on a daily basis. But it is certainly open, it is certainly operational. So again, people are certainly welcome to come here to have their business taken care of. That said, I believe your question pertains to council meetings and when you are, or when people will be permitted to return here in person for council meetings. That, to me, raises a whole nother question. We have a very small council chambers overall, and for any number of people to appear here, even to be socially distanced, poses certain issues, as well as the council being required to sit here on the dais or at the chairs in front. That is even a larger issue than it is for members of the public to be here. As far as facing any criticism, Mr. Fernandez, you have certainly been highly critical of everything since COVID has started, and I feel that you have not in any way not been able to criticize me, as you certainly have throughout this entire COVID crisis and pandemic. So again, as far as criticism goes, I am certainly open to criticism. I am certainly willing to take criticism. I am certainly willing to address any issues head on. I do not fear re-election in the sense that I'm going to try to avoid individuals from coming to council meetings because of re-election. That is certainly not a fear of mine in the sense that I'm going to do anything different out of the ordinary, again, outside of the normal realm of what COVID now presents us with. It is not about re-election. This is certainly not about that. In fact, The only thing that I am concerned about right now, and I'm going to be very brief this time because I feel like I am now, I have consistently answered this same question the same way. I do not want to bring COVID home to my wife or my children. It is that simple. I do not need to put myself in a position to increase the possibility of transmitting this virus. There is no reason for it. Frankly, I don't care that people are on the beach within 2 inches of each other without face masks. I have not done that. In fact, a vacation home that I was at recently was only myself, my wife, and my children. My own parents are not there at the same time as me. My own brothers are not there at the same time as me. I don't need to be in close proximity to anyone during this pandemic. I care more about my wife and children at home than anything else. I am not going to risk that. It is that simple. This is not about an election. Please do not even infer that I am not opening City Hall because I'm afraid of criticism. In fact, I welcome criticism. Email your heart away and fire away all you want with your questions, comments, concerns. I don't know when Town Hall will be reopened for you to grandstand at this microphone and ask your questions. Ask them via email right now. This is the cards we've been dealt. I didn't intentionally spread this virus to avoid Little Falls Town Hall from being open because I'm afraid of your criticism. Please feel free to ask anything you want. I don't know if 2 weeks from now Town Hall will be open for public meetings. I don't know if 2 years from now Town Hall will be open for public meetings. So if you have questions that you feel are so utterly important, ask them. If they can wait, wait. I don't care.
Item number 2, Mayor.
Item number 2 is Resolution C, PCO 13, stating wiring for existing field lighting, an extra $83,000. Wasn't that lighting recently done? This was a question that I actually answered or addressed at the prior council meeting 2 weeks ago, but I'm happy to certainly shed some additional light on this. The lighting system at the field was certainly done just a couple of years ago. In fact, the grants were actually received by the prior administration. It was the project was just completed. Was it 2 years ago, Chuck? Was it 3 years? 2 years ago now? 2 years ago was the completion of the lighting there at Duva Field. Unfortunately, and as I've said in the past, I feel that the prior administration sometimes was a little bit nearsighted in some of the projects and work that they did, and that sometimes what the municipality had done in the past to save $1 now wasn't worth the savings as it costs us more than double that in the future. And what I mean by that is this. The conduit that was there wiring the current system was the same conduit that was installed that wired the prior old lighting system at the field. The issue was that when the contractor began to work and with the first push of the blade with the bulldozer struck several of the wiring lines that were there and installed from the prior lighting system. Again, they simply reused the same conduits and the same wires with this new system. Unfortunately, those conduits were not buried and installed at the proper depths as they should have been. I believe, I don't know if it's 18 inches or 3 feet for that high voltage wiring that was originally installed. Some of them were as shallow as 6 inches, as I understand it. The problem is that, of course, in damaging them, they now need to be repaired. And there's no one that we can hold accountable because these wires were installed a number of years ago when the prior lighting system was installed. So for that reason, unfortunately, this is an added cost, one that was not anticipated, one that resulted in this change order, one of the few, and a cost that the township unfortunately needs to take on the chin here to get this park operating at full capacity and fully operational. So again, unfortunately, saving a couple of dollars a couple of years ago may not have been the right answer. I also understand that the reason that these may not have been installed as proper as they should have been was because it was done through someone who, at the time, generously offered to do this themselves for the municipality, not charging the municipality anything. And the old adage, sometimes you get what you pay for, comes to mind in reviewing this. So that is the reason that CPCO 13 indicates the wiring for existing field lighting at a cost of an additional $83,000.
Mayor, I know we just received a email from Mr. Testa, which I'm going to read. And Mr. Testa, if you would send in your address, we'd appreciate that. And this is regarding the continuation of Turf Field. I would like to voice my support of the town council to continue work on the recreation turf field. The need for outdoor rec space is greatly needed in this town. The town has gone above and beyond with this project and needs to continue with all efforts to increase rec use for the public, sent in by Anthony J. Testa. Mayor, we have another email that was sent to the mayor and council regarding some questions. Would you like to entertain that at this time?
Absolutely, Council President. I received an email earlier today that I would like to address here, and I don't know if this individual is watching, but there are a lot of relevant questions in here, some that I have faced in public recently, some that I see on social media, and I feel that it's warranted to respond here at the council meeting. And again, I will also respond in writing to this individual. It was sent by a Jennifer Russo, and the questions were, hello, I would like to know the status of a few properties in our town. What is happening with the empty lot on Patterson Ave across from the firehouse? That lot has been vacant for quite some time. I would certainly agree with you that this lot has been vacant for some time. There are some plans that are being circulated with the planner and the developer to ensure that there is conformity with the central business district zoning and some of the other things of the sort, and that is being reviewed to bring that hopefully close to being completed in the relatively near future. At that point, a redevelopment plan would ultimately be presented to the council and the planning board for their approvals. Once that is completed, then the redevelopment of that site will begin. Unfortunately, I do not know of specific timing of that. That is going to be somewhat up to the developer and when the application is actually made and the documents are all submitted. So hopefully soon is my answer, but I don't know exactly what that means. I know that's in relative terms. Part two to this was, I see that the former gas station and nail clinic are currently being demolished. What are the plans for that property? Will that remain vacant for a long period of time? Frankly, I don't know the answer to that. There are absolutely no plans that have been submitted, no plans circulated, nothing on the record, off the record, anywhere in between. There is absolutely no information or knowledge regarding what the ultimate plan for that site is. And in that regard, I don't know what the timing of the redevelopment of that site will be, what it will be, whether it be commercial, whether it be residential. That all remains to be determined once the developer approaches the municipality with some plans for that project there. Again, until then, and whenever that is, I'm uncertain what will be the ultimate fate of that property. The next portion of this email goes on to read that I understand contamination was discovered during the installation of the turf field on Patterson Ave. What is the contamination and how was it discovered? If that contamination is from an off-site source, the town should not be paying for the cleanup, so why do we need an additional $300K? So there are two hazardous materials that have been found in those, and to answer the first part of this question, how was it, what is it and how was it discovered? First, how it was discovered is the contractor did borings throughout, and they were kind of spaced out throughout the entire field. It's sort of a grid format, and they did borings for soil to determine whether or not there was contamination in them, because contaminated soils, as most people know, need to be disposed of separately and in a different way than clean soil. Unfortunately, a lot of the soil that was contaminated ended up being topsoil, which leads to the issue of it's not really usable or buryable somewhere else, and it needs to be paid to be removed. Sorry, there's some feedback here. The two things that were found there were arsenic and PCBs, two potentially highly contaminated substances, and thus resulting in the substantial cost to have this soil removed. So we did, again, get quotes. We are in the process of having it removed. This was certainly unknown to the municipality until all of this was done. And we are, again, in the process. So the next question in here was it from an off-site source? This could be misinformation that I'm going to state, but I have heard this in the past, and I believe it to be true, that the field at the rec center here in Little Falls was actually created with a lot of fill material over a handful of years, years and years and years ago. So where exactly that came from is certainly unknown to me. That field was there as long as I can certainly remember. I don't know exactly the year that that field was created here in Little Falls, but it is certainly, I think, impossible for us at this point to determine where that soil may have come from. So holding someone else's feet to the fire on the cost for this removal is near impossible. And the last question that was asked here was finally, if any of these properties have residential or commercial units, has a traffic study been completed to anticipate the additional cars on the road? The comment that I have to that is for the Singac redevelopment zone, which is the only real prior big application that was brought before the board, there was an extensive traffic report that was prepared. A traffic engineer had appeared before the board. There was certainly testimony before the planning board in that regard. So there certainly was a traffic study performed and testified to at the planning board level. All of the questions and concerns that were raised by the residents that were here in person, as well as the board members, were adequately addressed by the traffic engineer at that time, thus the approvals eventually being granted to the development project here in town. And frankly, as a side note, with the amount of individuals who I think will be working from home in the future, either on even if it's a part-time, more so than they have in the past, or many who are now permanently working from home, I think that traffic in not only here in Little Falls, this is a general statement and a personal opinion, I think that traffic patterns and traffic flows as we knew them, say, 1 year ago today, are going to be very different from what they are 1 year from now, or even now during this pandemic. But yes, there certainly were traffic studies that had been completed in response to all of those. And that information, again, was presented to the planning board. And finally, Council President, this individual noted that I'm happy to see positive changes in the town. I would just like to see the above items clarified. And that was the entirety of this email here.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to all the residents that have sent in the emails. Does the council have any comments or questions regarding any of these emails that were sent in? Mrs. Kraus, are there any more emails that were forwarded to us?
Yes, I just forwarded another one.
Just give us a moment.
All right, so the, Council President, if you'd like.
Okay. Mayor, would you like to read this email and then respond?
Sure, and I may need to rely upon our engineer, Tom Lemanowitz, for this answer. The question is from Luis Fernandez at 54 Harrison Street. If arsenic and PCV, and let me, I know sometimes these communications don't come across very clear. It's P as in Peter, C as in child, B as in boy are the letters, Mr. Fernandez, PCB. So if arsenic and PCB were discovered, are the residents of Jackson Park at risk? Should the township do some boring around Jackson Park? And I am certainly not equipped to answer that question, and am going to defer to our engineer, Tom Lemanowitz.
Mr. Lemanowitz, you heard the question from the residents. Can you comment on that, please?
No, I didn't quite hear. Was he asking about a different park, about Jackson Park?
Yeah. Hold on. Mrs. Kraus?
Yes, I can forward the
Can you
email.
please forward the email, what Mr. Fernandez
Yes,
sent
absolutely.
to Mr. Lemanowitz, so he can thoroughly read
Sure.
it? Because his communication is being a little bit disruptive.
Okay, I just sent it.
Okay. Mr. Lemanowitz, let me know when you receive it.
Oh, well.
And Mrs. Kraus, for the record, Chief Post is attending, our Counselor Joseph Wenzel, and our engineer Tom Lemanowitz.
Okay.
I got the email, and I don't know anything about Jackson Park. We've never investigated that, so I really can't answer the question. Just for a little bit of clarification, though, at Duva, the original discovery of the material was done by the licensed site remediation professional that the township hired. The contractor has to do additional testing for his own purposes because a receiving facility, a facility that receives soil, wants to know if it's clean. So he had his own reasons to do it, but the town thought enough ahead to hire an LSRP to help get through this process, and basically the capping that is the turf actually becomes a cap for the soil, which is an appropriate way to protect the public.
Mr. Lomanowicz, the reason why our town has different parts that somehow got their names. I'm not sure how Jackson Park got its name, or Great Notch, or Singac, however. Jackson Park is the area of our municipality that is located next to the turf field. So the resident who lives in that area, that's why there seems to be a concern if there's contamination of soil, is that a spillover into the area?
The area nearest the pickleball.
It's the area nearest to the pickleball court.
If I misunderstood, I can ask the LSRP if those substances tend to leach. The soils at the site are fairly fine. In fact, if any it's a very thick soil, so I don't think we'd go very far. But I can ask that question. I can get back to you.
So, Mr. Fernandez, we'll get back to you with some more secure data, but at the current time, it doesn't seem like there's any risks. But thank you for your email. Mrs. Kraus, are there any more emails sent to the discovering body?
No.
Okay, thank you. Does the council have any comments to the emails that have been just recently answered? Can I have a motion to close the public comment?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Seaver, second by Councilman Vanchery. All those in favor of closing the public comment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay, and that motion carries. We're going to move on to resolutions 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5. Mayor, would you like to start with number 1, that we're going to be saving some money on the pickleball?
Yes, and Council President, if you don't mind, before I do, I'd just like to give a quick, brief update about some other things in town.
Okay. So the mayor is going to give his report at this time regarding, has been a kind of a very interesting term for you, Mayor, with flooding, power outages, sewer situations. I don't really know what's left in your administration that can happen, other than, I don't want to really say it, but I'll say it, an earthquake. I mean, basically, you had everything thrown at you, but go ahead, Mayor.
And I will say, we've also dealt with some incredible snowstorms, as we're all familiar with statewide here, and I think Little Falls performed, or outperformed, I should say, almost anywhere, well, absolutely outperformed anywhere else in the state. But that said, as far as the storm that we had and we dealt with a week ago, well, it will be a week ago tomorrow, last Tuesday's storm, there were, as most people know, many power outages throughout town. We had actually a surprising light amount of rain, which was something that we had certainly been prepared for more of, in the sense that our DPW was certainly out after the storm the Friday before, making sure that our rivers and contributaries and everything else were as clean as could be, and they did an outstanding job doing that. So the river was ready to sustain, the maximum potential based upon the work that our DPW did. Luckily, that did not have to get tested or tried to any extent. That said, this storm came with, unlike 2 years ago, tremendous winds that ended up knocking over dozens and dozens of trees town-wide. I think we had a dozen of them exactly on municipal roadways, and a lot of them resulting in substantial power outages. For those who may have seen photos or may not, there are areas of roadways on East Lindsay, on Wilmore Road, a couple of other roadways in town where the power lines, the very high voltage wires, were down for periods of time without being shut off, where it literally melted the asphalt in the roadways. East Lindsay Road at the bottom there of Francisco near Wilmore and Cedar Grove Road probably being the most substantial that we saw damage to during the storm. I will say that While PSE&G was in town somewhat after the storm to get us up and running, I was somewhat dissatisfied with the speed with which they responded here, and I had really hoped that they would have been a little more responsive and quick to get us back online. That said, I do know they had their hands full across the state and other areas with other severe issues, but I was somewhat concerned that we had one roadway in town that actually remained completely closed for 3 days following the storm. While nobody wants to see a roadway closed, when there's other ways around, it's not such a major health issue. But in this particular case, Yolanda Drive in Little Falls here had a tree down across the entire roadway with a live wire in the tree that we could not get PSE&G out here for 3 days to ensure that that wire was dead so that our DPW could safely remove that tree. That, to me, is unacceptable. Again, roadways being closed are one thing, but when there's only one way in or one way out for our police, for our fire, for our ambulance, and for all of those residents to get out to get such simple necessities such as food and things like that, that, to me, is unacceptable. And I am certainly going to have communications with public service demanding better responses in those types of situations, because that, to me, created a public health hazard here in Little Falls, and that is unacceptable. That said, again, I know I touched briefly upon our DPW's preparation for the storm, but our DPW's post-storm response was absolutely incredible. That rain had barely stopped, the winds had just died down, and our DPW was out there in full force, removing trees from our public roadways, removing massive branches, and they have since that day been out every day working extra hours, making sure that all of the large branches, all of the sticks, all of the leaves, everything that has landed on everybody's property has been removed or is in the process of being removed. They have been doing an incredible job getting our town back on its feet after this storm. And again, with adverse conditions being, COVID and this pandemic still ongoing, I absolutely cannot say enough about the response of our DPW and the individuals that are employed there, and I commend them and thank them for everything that they have done with this storm cleanup. It was pretty incredible to see firsthand some of these trees being removed, and I could not believe the size of the tree that was so quickly cut up, chipped, removed, and the bigger, trunks loaded into the pickup beds and on to the next one. They were incredible in doing that, and I want to thank them for all of the work that they did. That said, if individuals do still have branches or bags of leaves or different things like that that need to be picked up by our DPW, bring them to your curb. Our DPW will be around continuing to move them, to remove them. If you think that it sat there for a couple of days and it hasn't yet been removed, I would urge you to contact our DPW. The phone number's on the Township website. But do please just give it a couple of days before you call, because they are certainly working their tails off down there to get everything cleaned up as quickly as they can. But again, if you think there's been substantial delay, please feel free to contact our DPW. We'll get you on the list and we'll get those items removed. And then, Council President, to add insult to injury after that storm here in Little Falls, speaking of traffic issues, on Wednesday following the storm, Route 46 was completely shut down in both directions, one being at Union Boulevard, the other at McBride Ave here, or Patterson Ave here in Little Falls. The traffic that ensued as a result of this complete closure, and not just for 5 or 10 minutes, for hours and hours and hours, because of a fire on a telephone pole on the highway, caused an incredible and an abnormal traffic and congestion here in Little Falls. Frankly, it was a complete disaster. I had to drive from my house to the municipal building, which is 1.5 miles, and the amount of time that I spent in my vehicle going from my house to the municipal building and from the municipal building back home was, I have no words. That said, I also heard a war story from an individual who was trying to make it to their home in the Great Notch section of town from Home Depot, and it took that individual 2.5 hours to make it home from Home Depot in Totowa to their house here in Little Falls. Again, that just added insult to injury. It slowed down our DPW from their post-storm cleanup, but hopefully we are through the thick of all of that now and back onto some normalcy as far as traffic goes and branches and trees here in Little Falls. Next, Council President, one of the issues and concerns that I've seen on a number of occasions has to do with the school openings or reopenings in September at both the local and the high school levels. I have had a number of residents that reach out to me regarding either the high school or local schools, expressing concern one way or the other, whether it be the school should not be reopened or the school's plans should allow for additional in-class time. And I want everyone to rest assured that anyone who has reached out to me with a concern, whether it be telephonically, whether it be through a messenger app, whether it be through an email, whether it be through any form of media to myself, I have forwarded those concerns and addressed those concerns with the schools and administrators at both the high school and local levels. The only thing that I can do in my position as mayor is bring to the attention of the school administrators the concerns that are brought to my attention. The ultimate decisions that will be made by the administration in the local Little Falls schools and the Passaic Valley High School. So again, I will certainly bring anything to their attention, but fortunately for me in this case, it is not my decision to have to make, because it is certainly a difficult decision for any administrator to have to make, whether to reopen or not and the way to go about it. But again, I want everyone to rest assured that I have certainly brought all of the concerns that have been brought to my attention to the appropriate school and administrators. Finally, Council President, the last thing that I want to address is, and I know I briefly touched upon it at one of our prior council meetings, is the amount of revenues that the municipality is down this year. And we are down hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenues that the township typically has received by this point in the year. And as of June 30th, just to shed some light on just one or two of the major items where we are down substantial revenues, our municipal court, as of June of 2020, is down over $111,000 compared to where we were in the 2019 year. And while police are certainly out there enforcing laws, while they're certainly out there taking care of business, courts unfortunately are not operating at full capacity. They're doing virtual sessions, things of the sort. So I do not anticipate that this number is going to be made up over the next half of the year. If anything, it's certainly not at the same rate as it had previously been. Again, as of June 30th, our construction permits and fees and different applications that are made to our construction department are down over $122,000. So in just those two areas, we're down almost $250,000 in just municipal courts and constructions. We're also down substantial numbers in our recreation department, in our interest in investments, and our interest in taxes. And one of the other major concerns that I had just been speaking to Mr. Cucci, our business administrator, about earlier, is the absolute question mark that we have right now on our future state aid and what we are to see. This year's state aid is already down a bit, but what we see in the upcoming state aid, which I believe begins September 1st, the new state aid,
9-month budget, yes.
so on the 9-month budget from September 1 to June 30th, there is a massive question mark over what we will see come in state aid. And of course, understanding that that is all going to come down to the state and how they, and if they appropriate any funds to municipalities such as Little Falls or even the larger cities. So a major concern for us here in town, unfortunately on just these couple of items, we're a couple of tax points essentially behind in the revenues that we didn't overestimate but for COVID this year. And it poses major concerns financially for the township, at least as you know, in the very, very immediate future. But again, we will certainly be looking to do anything and everything that we can to ensure the safety of our future budgets here in Little Falls and the tax impact that we can try to avoid to any residents here in town, we're certainly going to do that to the best of our ability. So I know that was, again, another question, and I just wanted to touch base on that particular issue. And that's all that I have on my report, Council President, except for the items on the agenda now.
Does the council have any questions or comments regarding to what the mayor reported this evening? Let's discuss resolutions 1, 2, and 3. 4, there's really no reason to discuss it unless somebody has any questions. And resolution 5, Mr. Kusia would explain that. So Mayor, would you like to discuss, we're saving some money, spending some money?
Sure.
Resolution 1.
Absolutely, Council President. So Resolution 1, approving the change order for the pickleball court construction. When the pickleball court project was originally designed by the engineers and discussed, there was in that project some restoration of the field and grass in the area around the pickleball court that was going to be installed, as there is with almost every project that happens where ground is disturbed. Because there will be landscape turf going around that area of the pickleball courts, we are able to save a few dollars, and that restoration originally anticipated by the contractor for the pickleball courts will no longer be necessary. Therefore, we see a reduction of, I believe it's almost $35,000 for our pickleball court project. So we do see some savings there, so that's good news for us. As far as Resolution 2, approving the change order for Duva Field Storage Building, there is a slight increase in the cost. There is a change order downward as well as one upward, but overall ending in a net positive owed by the township because, again, some of the restoration will not be necessary. However, during the design phase of the construction, during the design phase of the storage building, it was anticipated that there would be an electrical panel outside in the corner of the building of the rec center that would make the run to the new storage unit somewhat easy. Unfortunately, because of concerns of whether it be vandalism or whether it be a safety issue and that really the electrical being on the outside and more easily accessible to others was something that as the AC project at the rec center moved on, they thought it best that that electrical panel be moved inside the building, and because of that, there's some additional work to get the electric out to the storage unit, so there's a slight change order for an increase in cost to get the electric from that panel now out to the storage unit that is being constructed at Duva Field. So that's the change orders that you'll see there. The third is approving the change order for the Duva Turf Field. I've discussed a number of the substantial expenses associated with that, some of it being the contamination, some of it being the lighting. There are a number of other change orders, such as some fencing that's going to be replaced as well, because there was a little bit of fencing left that would have been the old fence rather than the new black fence that's going to be installed around almost all of the rest of the site. There is also a couple of other things that I'm just going to highlight, some of them being some additional concrete work around the recreation center building, as well as the snack shack in the middle of the two fields, being the other most substantial costs. And the reason being, anyone that's been to our recreation center lately may have noticed that really the area at the recreation building, due to vehicles driving over the pavers for a number of years, there's really some major depressions in the pavers from the vehicle tracks over the past handful of years. So that is all going to be restored with concrete. And the area nearest the snack shack in the middle of our two fields, there's really some safety and tripping hazards that are there now as a result of the pavers, and there's really about 5 or 6 different finishing materials in that area now, but as a result of a lot of them settling over the years, some of them kind of dropping 2 and 3 inches in certain places, there's some major tripping hazards in the area there that really pose a safety issue, and in doing so and making it safer alone, it will also beautify the area and really bring us up to par with a lot of our surrounding neighbors and their recreation facilities that they provide. So those are the 3 Duva Field change orders that you'll see for the pickleball, the storage building, and the turf field project.
So item number 4 is pretty self-explanatory, unless the council have any questions on the renewal of the liquor licenses. Resolution 5, canceling taxes on a property. Mr. Kusia, can you enlighten us to this, why this is happening?
During the preparation of the new tax duplicate, which is the list of all property taxed, which are taxed in the Township of Little Falls. There was an error in the input on one particular piece of property, changing the class of property. That, in the system, created a larger assessment than what was there in the past. The property did not change. It did not have any added assessments or any improvements. So we're correcting that error in the tax duplicate.
I gather the administration is reaching out to that homeowner and notifying he or she of that change and when the taxes are due on that property?
Yes, we've already taken care of that.
Does the council have any questions or comments regarding resolutions 1 through 5? Okay, we'll continue to action items. Chief Post, I just want to say if you ever see an item on our agenda that you think is going to cause a safety issue or something that you want to have any input, please reach out to myself or the mayor, because I do see coming up here a closure of a street, and you don't have, I guess, any issues with that closure, do you, Chief? Chief Post, are you on? Okay.
Yeah, I'm on.
Okay. So Chief Post, before we proceed, do you have any issues with the closure of the street that's being requested from the American Legion?
I don't see that.
Okay, so
Which street?
they're asking for a street closure from on Van Ness, from Van Ness to Tulip Crescent for a barbecue from 12 to 7, and also for a pig roast event on September 19th from 12 to 7. Does that cause any safety concerns before this council adopts this?
The actual closure of the roadway wouldn't show any concern on outhouse, as long as you can get around.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you, Chief.
So the closure is between Tulip Crescent and Maple? Where's the closure between?
Alita
I'm sorry?
to Tulip Crescent.
Alita to Tulip Crescent. So it's Van Ness Avenue from Alita Street to Tulip Crescent. That's what would be closed from a period of time frame from 12 to 7 p.m.
Yeah, that wouldn't cause any problems. We can get
Okay.
around through Cinderella.
Okay, thank you, Chief. All right, so can I have a motion to approve the correspondence item resolutions A through F?
So moved.
So moved by Councilmember Coordinator,
Second.
second by Councilmember Vanchery. Mrs. Kraus, call the roll for correspondence items, resolutions A through F.
Councilmember Cordner? Yes. Councilmember Kawadi?
Yes.
Councilmember Seaver? Yes. Councilmember Vanchery?
Yes.
Council President Scoba?
Yes. Councilman Kawadi, have some items to discuss this evening, movie night, et cetera?
Yes, thank you, Council President. But first, I just want to start by echoing what the mayor said about the hard work of the DPW, the police department. I'm sure there were other agencies involved, possibly the fire department, in what went on related to the hurricane. My thanks to you and congratulations on a great job, everyone. I know that other towns that are nearby were also impacted by the storm because I was helping relatives who had power outages that lasted up until yesterday. So I know that most of our power outages were addressed much sooner than that. And if anyone questions just how dangerous these situations can be, take a drive up Lindsay Road and look at the scoring in the street where the asphalt is melted from a down power line. And so I just, as the mayor said earlier, I just want to echo his thoughts in thanking everyone for their hard work during the storm in keeping us all safe. With that said, as you mentioned, movie night, our 3 movie nights in a row will begin this Wednesday at Memorial Park on Wilmore Road. The event starts at 7 p.m. We will have Tip and Twirl will be there doing a fundraiser for the Municipal Alliance. We'll have popcorn available, and the film will be Despicable Me, and that starts at 7 p.m. this week. On the 19th, the Municipal Alliance will be selling pretzels as a fundraiser, and the film will be E.T. And on the 26th, I believe the LFAC has shown some interest in doing a fundraiser as well, and we're going to help them out. They're going to sell Krispy Kreme donuts, and the film will be Stand By Me. And so social distancing rules will apply. We are asking everyone who comes to wear masks the entire time, but it should be a great night out. Watching a movie out under the stars is always fun. These movies vary in age, so please just make sure that if you're bringing children to the events, that they're appropriate to the film. They do sort of run the gamut from, I would say, young children to maybe young teens. And so just be aware of that. But we're looking to have a lot of fun at these events despite COVID. I think if the LFAC, the ABC events have taught us that we can get together, we can wear masks, and we can still have a good time in spite of the pandemic when we're afterwards, of course. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Councilman Vanchery, you've been busy with transportation. I know I attended a meeting that you were holding with the mayor regarding speed humps.
Yes, thanks, Council President. Before I jump into some of the updates about the meeting we had last week, I also want to echo thanks to the members of the DPW, the Little Falls Police Department, OEM, and the Little Falls Fire Department for everything they did last week during the storm. You know, we went from a situation where we were concerned about flooding to a shift out the wind. So just really appreciate everything that was done. And also I have to thank the members of the grounds crew at Stake Valley High School. One of their trees last week actually fell down and landed on one of my neighbor's home, as well as my other neighbor's fence and another neighbor's car. The staff recognized it. They came over with some plywood, sure to help each of the residents to let them know what they have to do from insurance and reporting purposes. So, you know, it was one of those things last week where a lot of trees fell, and hopefully, too, I'm sure the Shade Tree Commission is going to be looking at some trees around town to see if there's anything to be worried about in the future. But again, just thanks to everyone who's a part of helping out, making sure that we're able to be back up and running. In terms of the speed hump conversation, so last week we had a chance to meet with a number of different residents on Van Pelt, as well as Jacobus. It was myself, Mayor Damiano, Council President Scoba, members of the Little Falls Police Department, including Chief Post, Lieutenant Briggs, and Corporal Mercado, as well as our engineer, Tom Lemanowitz, and Wendy Madonia, who's also a member of the Transportation Committee. There were really good conversations with each of the residents where, you know, we went into detail about the idea of installing speed humps, but we also talked about some concerns around the speeding and adding four-way stop signs, in particular on the corner of Van Pelt and Weaver, as well as Jacobus and Morningside Circle. Everyone was receptive to adding the four-way stop signs, which I'm hoping to have on the next meeting's agenda so that I can discuss it further with members of the council. In the speed humps, the way we had each of the streets was we had talked about 3 potentially on Van Pelt and 5 on Jacobus. Through the discussions with residents on Van Pelt, they felt 2 would be ideal versus 3, and the plan is to revisit that for potentially installing that in 2021. As for Jacobus, as we met outside with several residents, there was a concern from some that live at the bottom of the street closer to Morningside Circle, where there was a need from the residents up closer to Long Hill Road, where they preferred to have speed humps. And the way we net it out, again, we will revisit this with the residents in 2021, is that we're looking at potentially installing 3 speed humps at the higher area closer to Long Hill versus down at the bottom of the street where we'll have at least a 4-way stop sign. Overall, Both meetings were very productive. It was a good chance to connect with the residents and have some additional follow-up through discussions with the police department. We're going to look at, additional traffic studies on both streets and also patrolling the area. Residents at both streets mentioned that there's certain times throughout the day there's a heavy volume and concerns about speeding. So Chief Post and his staff is going to look into that. But again, I just, really appreciated the opportunity to connect with the residents. As we said from the beginning, it was a suggestion, but we wanted their feedback and we appreciated it. As some other next steps, obviously with on the two four-ways I mentioned earlier, another thing I'm looking to plan is to sit down with Chief Post and probably Council President Scoba as well as Mayor Damiano and Mr. Cuccia, talk about some additional stop signs. We had discussed potentially some four-ways, as well as on streets where right now there isn't a stop sign, and maybe it's something we consider. And again, as we did previously last week with the two streets, we'd love to have these meetings on the block, talk to the residents, because knowing the situation right now with COVID, we can't have a town hall formally in the chambers, but at least we can take the show on the road, get some residents that will voice concerns or just ask any questions. So we're definitely pleased with it, so I'm looking forward to moving that ahead. One last thing I just wanted to watching, if you have not registered your child for track and field, the deadline is tonight. There's about 36 children that have signed up from kindergarten to 8th grade, so if anyone is watching that hasn't registered, please log on to the recreation website, sign up. That's it for me, Council President.
Thank you, Councilmember Vanchery. Moving on to Councilmember Maria Martini Cordonier.
Thank you, Council President. So I want to give an update on our seniors. We do have that tent that was erected by the Civic Center, and the seniors have been meeting there and continuing their social activities, which is something they have really missed. And I want to thank, the efforts of the Rec Department, Mr. Pace and Tyler Paseo, and especially Nadine Hines, who's with those seniors every single day, working with them, taking care of them. It's really a labor of love on her part, and sometimes, people who do some great work for our town don't always get the recognition they deserve, so I did want to call Nadine out for that. I know how much our seniors really love her. And I also want to say I appreciate the quick work on the part of Mr. Pace and our DPW on the day of the storm. We have that great big tent up of taking it down and securing it to make sure that it didn't get damaged or that we didn't have any damage to property. So I do want to thank both the Rec Department and the DPW, and just echo what everybody else has said. After an event like we had last week, with trees coming down, high winds, fire, traffic, just to add pestilence to that, was the only thing that was missing. I do want to thank the police department, the DPW, the fire department, and our EMS workers. We are truly a lucky town with these great service-oriented departments, and I want to thank the mayor for his leadership. And I do want to give everybody an update on the census. We had some troubling news, in my opinion. Originally, the federal government had wanted an extension to when the census numbers had to be reported in, and they had extended it to April because of the COVID-19 virus. And that was great because it's been very, very difficult to get to people. Going door to door has always been one of the best ways of getting to people who are underserved, where they may not have internet access, or they may not even have a telephone. So not everybody was getting counted. The federal government has decided that the new deadline will be December 31st, and that is extremely problematic during this time. Our New Jersey Census Committee would like to send people out door to door, but during this time of coronavirus, it may be problematic.
Little Falls is at a little over 70%, so we are inching our way up. Our state is at, I think, 66%. We need to be at 100% because when we're at 100%, we will get the most of our federal aid. I want to remind everybody that the last time the census was taken in 2010, because New Jersey was so underreported, we lost a congressional seat. And getting that congressional seat back is very important because that's one more vote for New Jersey when things come up like infrastructure, like our roads and bridges, like money for the Gateway Tunnel. So if you haven't done your census, please send it in. If you can reach out to friends and families to make sure that they have sent it in, it's really important. And that's all I have for this evening.
Thank you. Councilmember Seaver?
Hi, thank you. So, kicking off, again, definitely want to echo every service that we have in town and the help with the cleanup of the storm this week. We definitely use all those services. We had our Little Falls Farmers Market again this past Sunday with over 20 vendors in attendance, and it does, as a reminder, go through October 18th, every Sunday, rain or shine. Moving on, again, Library and Municipal Alliance are on summer break at this point. We'll see how everything looks as we kind of continue through this pandemic time. The library is still doing their virtual book club, so it is on Facebook and Instagram and also the website, so I do encourage everybody to check it out. This virtual book club is held on Zoom, and for September, it's going to be September 1st at 7 p.m. Also, looking to also expand some services through the library to our residents in town through a potential maybe so-called bookmobile. Details are getting worked out on that, so hopefully we'll have more to come on that. And then also, we are looking to, I know I've mentioned previously, we are looking to hold our first town-wide garage sale. We are at this point looking at Saturday, September 12th. So we should have some more information getting posted this week on that and details. And then finally, I know I've also mentioned in the past, if everybody remembers last October, we held our first Run Little Falls 5K at Passaic Valley High School. We do have it booked again for October, but however, it doesn't look like that would be really safe to hold at this point. So we are looking to possibly rebook that in spring, so we will have a new date on that to come. And then lastly, just glad to see that resolution about the pickleball change order, which actually is a decrease, and happy to continue to bring this project forward to the town. I think residents of all ages are going to really enjoy and get use out of that pickleball court as well as the resurfaced tennis court. And that is all I have for today.
Thank you. At this point, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember
Second.
Coordinator, second by Councilmember Seaver. All those in favor of adjourning this meeting signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay. This meeting is now closed. Thank you.